everyone, Connie Meyers here, back with another, I can promise you, fabulous interview with Janice Litvin. Janice knows all about burnout, and boy, can we talk about that today, especially after this last year. So welcome to my Kick Butt Leadership interview series. Janice, so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me, Connie. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I can't wait to dive into your book, but let me tell everybody a little bit about you. She has a mission to help leaders and teams banish burnout in their organizations so their employees can come to work healthy, happy, and ready to go to work. She does this through keynote speeches, workshops, and accountability groups. As a certified virtual presenter and SHRM certification provider, Janice is passionate about helping teams get engaged with becoming healthy, well, and stress-free. Her new book, which by the way is fabulous, Banish Burnout Toolkit, was chosen by SHRM for their certification text and helps you learn how to manage stress to prevent burnout. The result, long-lasting behavioral change. What makes Janice unique is her 20 years of technology recruiting experience, 10 years in IT, study of psychology, and experience changing her own behavior. Now, going from stress out and negative to happy and healthy, please welcome Janice. She's also a professional member of the National Speakers Association. So Janice, I'm going to ask you the first thing that I ask every one of the people that come on my series. Were you a leader as a child?
I think that depends on who you ask. I was the third of 4 children and the second of 2 girls. So if you ask my family, they'll say no. But if you ask my friends, I think they'll say yes. I have 3 boys. So my middle son, yeah, he is very much, he kind of is the leader of the entire pack, actually. So, and I think that's true. If you were to ask people about me too, I think it's, if I ask my family, no, I was shy, I was introverted. However, if you ask my friends, I was kind of out there and always wanted to be involved with everything. So I understand where you're coming from. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get to writing this fabulous book? Well, that's a very interesting question. I have 1 child, an adult son who's now 27. About a year and a half ago, he was helping me with my social media, as the younger people do. And we were talking about marketing and helping my speaking business. And I had told him about this program I had developed and was getting more and more popular, called Banish Burnout. And he said, "Mom, why aren't you writing a book called Banish Burnout?" And I said, "I have no idea." So I called my editor, I scrapped the prior project, and off we went.
That is fantastic. Well, you couldn't have picked a better year to write a book like this, that's for sure.
Right?
So you talk about in the book, you also speak in the introduction about you got this from experience. Can you kind of share your experience with us?
Wow. Let me see how many years back we should go. I'll take it to the more recent past, though, of course. So let me start with this. I had been at a family reunion party with my mother on the East Coast. She had lived on the East Coast before she had married my father and moved to Texas. So we had gone back east. And we were at this party, and a couple of the female cousins were chatting across the room. And she said, "I wonder what they're talking about with their heads all huddled together," in that kind of critical way that she was so famous for. But in that moment, I realized, after having moved away and then been with her again and gotten that perspective, I realized that a lot of my negative behavior and criticalness of others and myself had come from my mother. And it was like watching an actor on the stage, her words breathing life into the thoughts that were always running through my head. And so I realized that I was setting myself up throughout my life for being critical of others and being criticized. And every time something negative happened, I took it very, very personally. And I realized I don't want to live like that anymore. I want to change. And so I went through a process that is basically based on cognitive behavior therapy about how to make changes, how to start to pay attention when I'm in public and I overreact. I have learned since to stop myself and say, wait a minute, is this situation worth getting this upset over? And I've learned now how to stop myself from overreacting.
Well, I can tell you, so I call those moments like you had with your mom, I call those crystalline moments. And crystalline means sparkly or clear. So those are moments of clarity. And wow, you've taken and made a whole career out of that crystalline moment. I always talk about there's a gift and an opportunity. So look what you've done and accomplished with that one moment. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So why did you decide to write Banish Burnout Toolkit in the first place?
Well, it all started several years ago when a client called me up and said, we want you to do a stress management program, but we don't want your typical mindfulness meditation program. We want you to go deep. I said, are you sure? I can go pretty deep. So I created this program. And by the way, I had 3 weeks notice. So as I mentioned before, I had done a lot of research into cognitive behavior therapy, and I took some basic premises, which are, number one, you can change the way you react to stress if you want to and if you pay attention. And then I put several concepts together and came up with this idea to recognize when we're overreacting. Like I said before, interrupt negative thoughts, stop them, take a breath, pause before you react, and then analyze what happened. What was the incident? Was someone rude to you, or you're just irritated at the grocery store, or what's the issue? And then how do you react physically, verbally, emotionally, and how upset do you get, and how long do you stay there? So that all culminated into this program I created, where I take people through this journey of a variety of ways that we react and things that we do to ourselves, criticisms we do to ourselves, such as, I should do this and I should do that. I should make all A's. Well, my mother thought I should make all A's, but why? Why did that really matter in life? Is textbook smarts the only kind of intelligence?
Wow. Now that's a mouthful right there.
Yes. Right.
We've had a lot of learning to be done. Well, it's been all over the news, and it's been, they're talking a lot about now how the COVID has impacted, and being quarantined has impacted people's stress levels as well as their anxiety levels. And I can speak from personal experience. When I went to get my first shot, I thought I'm in the middle of writing my certification, and I got these great things going on, and I thought I was as happy and as calm and as great as you could possibly be. And I got that first shot, and I actually literally got emotional. I had tears in my eyes.
Wow.
And just the gratitude of the relief of that first shot. And I didn't realize that I was experiencing any kind of stress or anxiety or anything. I had no clue. So obviously there are major impacts. Why don't you express a little bit more about how COVID has impacted our stress levels?
Well, that's an excellent question. And you kind of hit on it within your question. And you said you didn't realize. I remember in the earlier days, and by the way, today marks the anniversary, at least in California, that we sheltered in place today, March 16th. And that's kind of, at the time we thought, oh, it's a month. Oh, it's 3 months. We'll be back in September. Here we are 12 months later. And I remember after a month or two of sheltering in place thinking, oh, we already work at home. My life hasn't been that upset. Yes, we can't see our friends, but we can drive by and wave and sit on the front yard and have a conversation, and we can go for hikes and we can go visit animals that nearby. We have horses. But I didn't realize one day around 2 or 3 months in how irritable I was till I started snapping at the people in my family. And I thought, wait a minute. I need to pay attention. So a lot of it is about paying attention. That's one thing. Number two, some variety of newspaper articles and reports are showing that stress levels are much higher for a variety of reasons. One is parents managing kids' schooling at home. And I know in some states, schools are slowly beginning to reopen. But during the thick of it, parents were working 9 to 5 at their home office, and that might have been the dining room table with kids running in and out and dogs and all kinds of action and trying to focus in a business Zoom meeting. And on top of that, because parents had to stop in the middle of the day, make sure their kids were on the right Zoom call and then doing the homework and helping them learn, Then they had to go back after dinner and finish their own work. So a lot of mothers in particular were working till midnight because their day began at 6 or 7 or 8, whenever they got the kids up. And then all this interruptions on top of cooking, cleaning, shopping, and preparing meals, and then working till midnight so their own work would get done. So you can just imagine how the increased load on parents really had a huge impact.
I have to tell you, I am really grateful. In a couple of weeks, my baby will be 50. And I thinking about, and my grandkids are now off. Well, one of them is off to college, other one just graduated college and has a fabulous job. But I really, my heart went out to parents with kids at home. Yes. And how difficult that must have been. And so many times, I remember early on, I was on a Zoom call, and here was this mom, and she was in the bathroom for the Zoom call. And she apologized, but she said, my husband has the spare bedroom. My one son has the other room. My daughter is in the dining room, which is open to the kitchen. She says, this is the only quiet spot.
And on top of that, can you imagine the poor school teachers with 1 week's notice? They had to completely flip the way they taught children. A lot of them had to suddenly learn how to use this thing called Zoom, which we all are experts at now, and how to figure out how to communicate what children needed to know through this camera and try to understand, are the children paying attention? Are they getting it? How can we get them to ask questions and keep order? And then eventually, a few months ago, there became a hybrid thing, even at the schools, where a friend of mine who's a teacher would have some kids in the schoolroom and some kids on Zoom. So then they had like this double thing where they're looking at the camera, are they looking at the kids? Who are they looking at? How do you make the homework assignments? How do you grade the homework? That means all the children have to have a computer at home, and not everybody does. So there's so many issues that came up through this.
Oh God, yes. My oldest daughter is a librarian at an elementary school. And she had never used Zoom, and she was trying to figure out, because she always read stories to the kids. So now she's having to do it via Zoom. And so she had me on there trying to show her how to share the screen and how to, maneuver the book so that the kids could see the book and her be on the book as well. I mean, it was, right. Yeah, now she is a pro at it, as we all are. But do you think, because you're hearing a lot about now Zoom fatigue, and don't you think that a lot of it has to do with the stress of just being on this little box of and trying to visualize? I mean, we're all body readers, right? We all, 50% of our language through words is really through our body. And being able to try and read people when you've got this little box that you're looking at versus a whole body, I think that really probably goes a long ways in why we're having Zoom fatigue, just besides the fact that some people are on it 8 hours a day. But so what can managers and what can owners of businesses do to help support their people when it comes to stress?
Wow, that's a really great question. First of all, yes, a lot of us are Zoom fatigued, and that brings up the issue of meetings. Yes, it's very, very important to stay connected to your people face to face as much as possible. On the other hand, when you call a meeting, is a full hour really important? Number one. Number two, does every single person on the team have to be there for the whole meeting? Maybe if you set an agenda and say at 10 o'clock, Sue is going to do her report, and at 10:15, Joe is going to do his, and not everybody has to hear all the, being more organized with how you run a meeting. On top of that, it might be fun to do some fun things like Friday Fun Day, book club, cooking club, movie club, pet club, crazy hat day, things that we think of are silly, but it relieves some of the stress and burden and yet gets people on teams bonding. And if we can get people relaxing a little bit more instead of having to be on and thinking, and because you feel like you have to hyper focus when you're in a Zoom meeting.
Yes.
And you're supposed to have your camera on. I know a lot of people don't. I try generally to have my camera on depending on who's speaking, if it's a meeting where you're talking and they're talking, you want to have your camera on. But if someone's presenting, I know people are multitasking back there and going to the kitchen and getting a cup of coffee. So I think managers have to be a little more empathetic than usual and be more sensitive, and maybe also try to help their employees remember that mental health is really, really, really important. And so inspiring people to take walks instead of saying, sit at your computer and talk, grab your phone, get on Zoom, on the Zoom app on your phone. Let's go for a walk and have a walk and talk with the phones. Yeah, it's a little bit weird to be on your phone talking, but at least you're outside. And there's a lot of research that shows that being in the sun is very, very healthy mentally and physically.
Oh, absolutely. So I have a really good friend. She just retired, but she was the chief economist for the California Association of Realtors.
Oh.
And she always started all of her meetings. She had a book club. And so they would spend the first 5 minutes of the meeting talking about some aspect of the book. And so that then everybody, whatever they were doing before the meeting, whatever they're going to be doing after the meeting, now they've all come to the meeting, and they've spent 5 minutes talking about the book before they started in on the plan. And she had just brought everybody present. And there has been studies show that when you start the meeting with like 1 or 2 minutes of breathing, or just like what she did with the book club, the meetings are shorter, they're more productive, they're more creative. So I think what you're saying is absolutely critical. And being outside, especially now that spring is rolling back around,
yes,
and we can be outside more, I think planning more meetings outdoors. I just watched a thing on Sunday morning where they had these outdoor schools for little ones, like little tiny ones, and how much more they learn,
yes,
by being outdoors and learning from playing in the mud.
And
what
you're also talking about about learning through movement. And there are lots and lots of studies that show that children who can move, first of all, when you move, the blood is flowing to the brain and the heart. And so that activates the thinking. But getting outside where children are happy, can you imagine? I mean, we did all go through this, the old-fashioned way of schooling, which was sitting at a desk, you pay attention, you sit up straight, maybe once an hour you get 5 minutes to go get some water and come back, and you might go to recess for 20 minutes. And they started, a few years ago, they started cutting back recess. I'm like, they started cutting back PE. Why are you cutting PE? That's part of learning. That's part of activating the brain. And then, there's all these other wonderful benefits, teamwork and all that. But getting back to something you said about your friend at the California Association of Realtors, about starting meetings with gratitude messages and things like, what is the best thing that happened yesterday? Start putting people in a positive mindset. Instead of focusing on what's not getting done, let's focus on what is getting done and what we're happy about, trying to find moments of happiness.
Oh yeah, celebrating successes I always talk about. I think that's really important.
The brain loves a completion. So one thing I talk about in some of my programs is stop and acknowledge for yourself when you have finished a project or a paper or a proposal or a report or a big email, whatever it is, or writing a speech. Stop and say to yourself, wow, that was hard. I'm so happy I'm done, and I'm proud of my work, and good job, Janice, for getting that done. Just that moment celebrates and releases positive chemicals in the brain, because the brain likes a completion and the brain likes the reward. And it's just an acknowledgement. It doesn't have to be an external reward. It can be intrinsically stimulated.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and the brain starts looking for more successes that way. I mean, you've got that chemical going through your brain saying, I want more of this feeling. So they're out there, the brain is out there looking for something more to celebrate. That's such great advice. So tell us a little bit about how your Banished Burnout program changes lives.
Well, again, a very good question. I'll give you an example. And I alluded to it earlier, but I'll tell you a little story. I went to a very large grocery store in my area, it's called Safeway, looking for a gift card for my son's girlfriend for her birthday. And she wanted this one, I know she likes to shop at this one store. And I was going to be tight on time. I had gone to the gym. I was going to have to get the card, go home, shower, the whole thing. And I didn't want to be late. I actually called this store. Do you have such and such gift card? Yes, we have it. I get there. I can't find the dang gift card. And this grocery store is so huge that they don't just have one little carousel. They've got rows, 2 long rows of gift cards. And you know, the gift cards are only this big. So you're, you know, talking about looking for little squares. So I'm walking up and down. I can't find the darn gift card. It's a huge store. Now I'm going to have to go to the front and get some help. As I'm going to the front, I notice in my brain that I'm getting angry. I'm in a hurry. I'm impatient. They said they had it. Oh my gosh, they're so stupid. Why did they say they had it? Now I'm going to have to go somewhere else. I'm going to be really late. Oh my gosh, they're so stupid. And as I'm trudging to the front of the store, I caught myself in the act of overreacting. And I said to myself, is anyone in the hospital? Did anybody break their legs or break their back? No. Does this situation warrant this degree of negativity and anger? No. Now, I want you to go to the front of the store, put a big smile on your face and say, hi, how is your day going? Could you please help me? I can't find this XYZ gift card. And I had to have this whole talk with myself, but it's about interrupting negative thoughts. It's very normal to have whatever reaction you have, whatever negativity or upset or annoyance at being put out. But the goal is to stop, take a deep breath, observe your thoughts, and then proceed. And that acronym STOP comes from Jon Kabat-Zinn, the founder of modern day mindfulness. So that's STOP, take a breath, observe, proceed, stop.
I actually use that a lot in my disaster certification because emergency planning people use that same acronym for a lot of the work they do, and how you need to proceed. There's a disaster, you take a second to stop, breathe, and then observe what's going on, and then proceed. So I use that probably several times a day.
Well, and I want to say that the more you practice, the better you get. So the first step is awareness, as most of your listeners know. Awareness that you wish to make a change. And just keeping this word stop in your mind. In my presentations, I actually have a stop sign with the STOP on the slide. Put a stop sign up on your wall to remind you to stop and breathe when stuff happens. Stuff is always happening. Stress is around every corner, from work or out in the streets, long lines, whatever the issue is. And so if you can remind yourself to stop and catch yourself and twist your emotional reaction, you actually will become calmer and happier.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I read another book a while ago. It was by Dr. Kathy McGonigal. It's called The Upside of Stress.
Yes, McGonigal. Yes.
I love that book. And it goes along with exactly what you're talking about because, well, first of all, most of us, I mean, we talk about the fact that, stress is going to kill us. Well, according to her, the only reason if stress is going to kill you is only if you believe it's going to kill you. If you believe that you can turn stress around like what you're talking about, then it doesn't have any effect at all. It actually has a positive effect where we can turn it into a challenge or we can turn it into a way of moving forward, like what you did in the grocery store. Instead of it being bad, you turn it into somebody else's great day because you asked how their day was going. I mean, that's such a positive and important tool for us to learn how to do that.
Yes, and let me add to that. I happened to meet her, and she's from Stanford in the San Francisco Bay Area, for those who know. One of the upsides of stress is the positives. First of all, when you're stressed, your heart starts to pump, your blood starts to pump, your body goes through physiological reactions. Some people, sweaty hands, whatever it is. You can harness those nerves and use them as energy. For example, when I'm about to make a presentation, I start to get those little knots in my stomach, that excitement. You can harness that and use that energy like an actor on a stage. Use that energy to give you enthusiasm and excitement for what you're about to do.
So, do you have your book handy so we can show it? Oh, there we go.
Banish Burnout Toolkit.
I highly, highly, highly recommend this book because we all need to learn how to chill and how to change that stress into something positive. And Janice, you're an absolute delight. I really appreciate you coming on today. Can they get your book on Amazon?
They can get it on Amazon. They can go to janicelitvin.com/book, and you can actually download a free chapter there. And you can learn more about me and my speaking programs there as well.
Yeah. If you are looking for somebody to come and talk, I mean, we all could have a little bit of a talk about stress and anxiety and all that right now, as we've spent a year, can you believe it's been a year, in quarantine and all the stress that went along with that. Well, thank you so much, Janice, for coming on. And I hope everybody goes out there and buys your toolkit because it's badly needed.
Thank you so much, Connie. Thank you for having me.
Okay, everyone, I promised you a fantastic interview. Did we not give a fantastic interview? Thank you so much for coming in and checking in my Kick Butt Leadership interview series. And I will be back, I promise you, with another fabulous interview. Bye now. And
Bye.
Thanks for staying.
Bye-bye.